Fox Business Alert investors are pretty much salivating over what could be three gigantic companies going public this year. SpaceX, OpenAI, and Anthropic could launch IPOs in the next cluster of months. All three are already touting blockbuster valuations that currently total $2.65 trillion. Goldman Sachs says there are more records to come if these three go public. Proceeds from these blockbuster listings are expected to quadruple to $160 billion versus the three-year average of the post-pandemic IPO drought, which you may remember lasted from 2022 to 2024. The race is on for exchanges hoping to land these companies. According to DealLogic, Nasdaq's ahead so far in 2026. There have been 23 more IPOs on the Nasdaq than on the New York Stock Exchange. But the year is young. Joining me now on a Fox Business exclusive is Nasdaq President Nelson Griggs. Nelson, what are you at the Nasdaq doing to lure any one of these three to list on the Nasdaq?
We focus on all companies' lists that are going to go public, but clearly this year there's a lot of discussion about this could be a year of some mega IPOs that we've been waiting for quite some time. Some of the companies have been around a while, some are newer companies, but to give them access, give the public access to these companies is going to be a really momentous occasion.
See, I thought you would say candy. Liz, we are luring them with candy.
We offer more than candy and confetti. We work very hard on the overall value proposition. How do we think about being prepared for an IPO like we've never seen before in terms of size and scale? How do we support them from their investor outreach? And then we do have a unique asset at Nasdaq, the Nasdaq 100 index. If you are a large cap company, Nasdaq lists all the trillion-dollar companies today because they have access to one of the most powerful growth ETFs in the world. So that would be another compelling part of our value proposition to large cap IPOs.
I would imagine that all three of these have huge egos. If you could assign an ego to any one of these companies, OpenAI, obviously massive in AI, same with Anthropic. SpaceX is the, $800 billion gorilla. That's the valuation for it right now. That said, because they know how valuable they are to any exchange, they're making some interesting demands, aren't they?
Well, I wouldn't say demands. I think Nasdaq is home to the innovation economy. So when we look at companies and their value proposition, all three of those companies and the ones like them are really changing their industries, they're changing the world. They're part of a generational technology that is going to be so impactful to everybody. So I think their ego, I think they're more focused on how are they going to execute on that. They want partners to get there, whether it's the banks are going to help them raise the capital, whether it's the exchange will help them list. I think they want the best partners to help them on their journey. So I hope that's us.
In the case of SpaceX, run by Elon Musk, Tesla lists on the Nasdaq. And I remember back in the day, Solar City, which then became part of Tesla, listing on the Nasdaq. But have you spoken to Elon about SpaceX?
Well, we never speak about an individual company until they make decisions, but we're in touch with every company. We spend years getting to know them. So it's very important for us to know what they want to accomplish and then how we match our value proposition to them. So that's our focus.
There are talks that Elon Musk's advisors have, in essence, asked index providers about early inclusion into market benchmarks. So immediately he would want to be placing SpaceX on the Nasdaq 100. Is that something you would ever consider for any company?
Well, we have filed what we call a consultation to consider rule changes to the Nasdaq 100 that would allow for early entry.
What are the rules?
So the rules is you need to be a public company for 3 months, and there has to be an opening then for you to be included in the Nasdaq 100. There's a yearly reconstitution, but also companies may come in and out through the year if there's M&A activity or for some other reason, but that doesn't happen that often. So this is a new rule that would, if we do proceed, it would end up allowing companies to get in shorter than that, 5 days after they list. They could be qualified and then go in about 10 days later. But you need to be really the top 30% of companies in the Nasdaq 100 today to qualify for that.
It sure is interesting to see the evolution of companies who not just decide on an exchange, but have lived on certain exchanges and then jumped. Walmart recently jumped from the New York Stock Exchange to the Nasdaq. A couple of years ago, Palantir did the same thing. Those wins, those have got to be so exciting for people like
that. Yeah, Nasdaq, we have quite a flywheel. So listing generates trading revenue. They become included in the Nasdaq 100 index. There's data opportunities. So we look at those companies. We have had over $4 trillion in market cap transfer from the New York Stock Exchange. We're very proud of that. But each one
that's where you start smiling.
Each one has its own story, and we think about how every day we're focused on what can we do to make Nasdaq a more valuable place to list, and those companies chose Nasdaq for the right reasons.
Can you predict how the IPO market will look this year? When I think back to 2021, it was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, back then, I think 2021, which was right after sort of the pandemic first year, there were more than 1,000 IPOs between both the New York Stock Exchange and the Nasdaq. Of course, Nasdaq trumped the NYSE with 726 versus 278. But then that drought from 2022 to 2024, big recovery in 25. Can you predict that 2026 is trending to look bigger than last year?
Yeah, we think it is. So it's been a build. So we had a better 23 than 22 and 24 than 23. And last year, as you mentioned, was a pretty good year for the IPO market. And this year, last time, we had about 180 companies on file to go public. Now we have 210. So the numbers of companies that are ready to go public has increased. And the market backdrop, as you've been talking about today, is pretty solid. So we look at the GDP growth, we look at the interest rate environment, we look at the health of companies today. You've talked about how the markets are at near an all-time high. Obviously, there's been a bit of a sell-off in IT these last couple months, but the backdrop is good. And it's a very diversified portfolio, Liz. We have a lot of private equity companies, VC-backed companies across a multitude of sectors. So we would suggest that this year has a chance to be a better year than last year, for
Nasdaq is not just technology. I always remind people of that. There's a big Nasdaq banking index. There are a lot of names from all different sectors.
Healthcare.
How are you approaching IPO discussions with Europe and Asia? How important are those talks?
Yeah, I think they're important. They tend to be very large IPOs when they do come to the U.S. And the U.S. is recognized as having the deepest liquidity pool in the world. Valuations for growth sectors tend to be higher. So particularly companies that may be in healthcare or technology, they are starting to think America first. We had the ARM IPO, which was a very large European IPO. We've had several other companies come to the U.S. recently from Europe and also Asia. So I think that's going to continue. It's not in droves. It doesn't compare to the number of companies in the U.S. that go public, but certainly they tend to be larger and very scalable companies.
That's right. ARM came from the United Kingdom.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Come on, talk some smack here. Liz, we're going to get SpaceX.
So the only smack I'll talk is I've been with Nasdaq for 25 years. We focus every day on how we...
Are you a child?
Come on now. We focus every day on how we have a better value proposition for our clients. So I think we are, especially in the world of AI, how we're bringing more tools to clients, how we help them find the right investors, how we help them think about their governance. And then again, the growth of the Nasdaq 100 index is very, very powerful. But it's also the brand. If you look at the companies on Nasdaq, they are the ones driving the innovation economy. And we're very proud of that.
So you're underestimating the power of candy. I'm just saying.
And we provide plenty of candy and confetti as well, too.
Great to see you, Nelson.
Great to see you.
Thank you so much. And come back when and if you land them.
All right, sounds good.
We'd love to have it. Global energy markets keeping a close eye on U.S.-Iran nuclear talks as the president threatens to send more firepower to the Middle East. Phil Flynn is joining us in studio next with his view of the geopolitical chess match and how the oil markets are looking, and oil stocks, too. The Claman Countdown coming right back.